Okay, we are live and we are recording.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this session. I'm Dr. Kimberly Coledoye, a professor and the program coordinator of the Academic Student Success Department, which most of you probably know as EDUC 1300 Learning Framework. Today, I have the opportunity to present for you Coping with Online Classes with Strong Study Skills and Time Management. So I am going to ask you guys a few questions. I'm going to want you to be engaged throughout this presentation. And then if you have any questions, you can, I believe that we have to wait until the end to ask them, or you can place them in the chat and I will answer them as soon as I'm able to do so, okay? Well, I have a question for you. How are online classes similar to your face-to-face classes? And you can just answer in the chat, or you're able to unmute yourself. So if not, if you can unmute yourself, you can go ahead and speak out. If not, you can just answer in the chat. So how are online classes similar to face-to-face classes? Just give me some ideas. I'll give you a second to put that in the chat. Okay. Abike says they are the same, totally the same. Okay. Who else is out there? You think they're okay? So we think they're the same so far. Okay. Does anyone think there are differences? Are there any differences between the two types of courses? Has anyone noticed so far? Okay, well, let's talk about some of those similarities. One is that I think I'm with you. I think that they are very similar in the fact that most classes still require they still have assignments, you still have a teacher or a professor, you still have due dates. That's very similar. Some differences can be that maybe you are having to be a lot more independent, I think you may have noticed. You also are able to, you have a lot more autonomy. So as long as you're not in an online synchronous course, meaning that you have to log in at a specific time, then you are probably in a situation where you are able to study at any time. You're able to do your work at any time. So it's a lot more flexible. So there's a lot more autonomy, but there's a lot more responsibility. And it's something that we have to learn to balance if we're going to be successful in our online courses. So I have a quick poll for you. You'll see it pop up in just a moment. And if you could just take a moment and answer this question for me. I see that people are answering. So my question is, how stressed are you about this online learning? How stressed are you? Okay, great. We have a lot of people answering. Okay, great. And we have, great, 25 people who answered. Thanks so much for participating. So because we're in this WebEx event software, you can't actually see my screen, but I'll just tell you the results, okay? So according to you all, if the majority of you, I can show you the poll results, so that will help. So I'll give you about 10 more seconds to answer if you haven't answered yet. Okay, great. Let's see the poll results. So you should be able to see the results at this point. So only about 9% of you are extremely stressed. That is really good to hear. 32% of you are a little stressed. Some of you are just stressed, and 12% are not stressed at all. So that's good. So the majority of you, I would say, Over 50% of you, or close to, yeah, over 50% of you are a little stressed or stressed. Okay, so let's talk and see what we can do to help alleviate some of that. Okay. So I'm going to give you 10 different strategies that you can use when you are when to help you cope with your online courses. So you can feel free to take notes, or I believe this is going to be recorded so you can access it at a later time. So number one is to treat your online course like an in-person class. If you have a class that's taught synchronously, then you have to go to class just as you normally would. You wouldn't normally show up to your class in pajamas, would you? Right? So it's not a good idea to show up to our synchronous class, online class, in pajamas as well. So get up, get dressed, and physically go to class. Now, if you aren't in a synchronous course, meaning that you're taking an online anytime class, then you still want to give yourself some structure. So set a time for your class and attend to the work of that class during that time. So give yourself a schedule. If you're taking 4 classes, you can say on Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 12, I'm going to work on calculus. And then from 12 to 2, I'm going to work on composition. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, you can work from 10 to 12 on biology and so forth. So give yourself a specific time that you do work every single week for that specific class. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, create a daily schedule for yourself and follow it so that so that you can get yourself kind of organized in a way that's going to help you be more successful. Now, how fast do you think we forget information? We're going to these classes, we're doing this work, and how much of this information are we actually retaining? Well, there was a psychologist, his name is Dr. Herman Ebbinghaus. He came up with this, he conducted a study and determined that we forget information pretty quickly. Usually, if I give you some information and then I ask you immediately to recall that information, you can answer, with about 100% accuracy. But after just 20 minutes, you will your accuracy will be at about you will remember about 58% of what I actually said. After an hour, only 44% of what I said. After 9 hours, 36% of what was said. After 6 days, 25% of what was said. And then 31 days later, you'll only remember about 21% of the information that was presented to you in a class. Now, what's the problem with this? Because we usually don't take tests the same day. We take tests probably a few weeks later, so closer to 31 days. So what can we do to combat this learning, this forgetting curve? Because if we don't do anything, or if we don't do very specific things, the information that we're learning is going in one ear and coming straight out of the other. So what can you do to combat this learning curve? One is to actively learn and study afterwards. Make sure that you're annotating your textbook while you're reading. So while you're reading, even if you're using an e-textbook, use the tools to help you with that e-textbook. So make sure that you are taking notes. You are taking notes on your book. If you are using an e-tool, type the notes onto the book. If you are, make sure that you're taking notes by hand. Make sure that if your professors, or when your professors are lecturing, if they give live lectures, take notes, just like if you're in regular class. Just pay attention, write notes. If your professors are giving you videos instead of just live lectures, take notes on those videos. You have to review daily what was learned, because we learned that after 9 hours, you're only going to remember 35% of the information that you were supposed to learn. So if you don't do something if you don't do something like reviewing yourself by the end of the day, then you are going to forget the majority of the information you were supposed to retain. So review every single day. So if you have class, if you go to class on Monday, review at the end of class. Review at the end of class, and then review at the end of the day. Okay. And then every week, take a moment to review all of your notes for the week. Okay. Review everything you wrote down, review all the topics you covered, and just quiz yourself. Just ask yourself questions about what it is that you were supposed to remember. Next, you want to make sure that you complete the optional learning activities. I know some of us look at it like this is just more work and it's not for a grade, but it's going to help you. Don't think that you can just do the bare minimum, do the assignments, go on and do well in class. That's not always going to work. So you're going to have to do those optional learning activities. If your professor gives you a platform where you can log in and do like practice problems, you should do those practice problems. If your professor gives you an opportunity to create flashcards, if your textbook has an to create flashcards, create the flashcards, quiz yourself with the flashcards, do more than just go to class and just answer questions or do your assignments. And then finally, you want to practice information differently. So for example, if your professor gave you a lecture and the lecture was just on a video, then okay, if you are listening to that video, that's a great idea. Okay. And then while you're listening to the video, you should be taking notes. Okay. And then with the notes that you already have, take a moment and recreate those notes in a different way. Maybe you want to, if you wrote them down just like in just jotting them down in a list format, you want to recreate those notes by maybe making a map, or perhaps by making flashcards with information, or maybe you just want to rewrite and put it in an outline. Okay, so information that you've received, find a way to repackage it, and that's a great way for you to study as well. Number 3, use all of the resources your professor provides. You want to make sure that you are reading the weekly announcements, that you read the chapter notes, you use your textbook or your e-textbook and you take notes, or you attend your virtual office hours if your professor provides them. So I want to take a moment, and I have another poll if you don't mind. I want to know about what percentage of your of items you get for your class are you supposed do you actually read? About what percentage? So that's like your textbook reading, the announcements. Okay, I'll give you about 15 more seconds to answer that. I think we have a lot of great responses so far. Thank you for all of you all who participated. Okay, let's see our results. Well, it appears that, oh my goodness, only 21% of you read about 90 to 100% of what you're supposed to read. About 14% of you read about 80 to 89%. 16% read about 70 to 79%. Okay. And then 5% and 2% read about 60 and 50. So I would say the majority of you are reading somewhere between 70 to 100% of what you're supposed to read. That's good. That's really good. But I see that about 50% of you are not. Okay. But we know that if anytime a student tells me that they are having trouble with the class, my first question for you is, are you reading? Are you doing all the? Are you reading the announcements? Are you reading the chapters? Are you reading the chapter notes? Are you attending virtual office hours? Because all those things will help you be more successful. Okay. So my next tip is to create a study space. Find a quiet place to study. I know sometimes that's very difficult when we live with other people, but maybe sometimes that quiet time or that quiet place to study is somewhere where they probably wouldn't want to go, or maybe you go to a space that's a common space, but you go at a time when other people aren't there. Okay, so find a quiet place, organize that space, and when you walk into that space, your mind will automatically shift into work mode. Okay, now all of us didn't plan for all this online learning. We don't have a bunch of spaces in our homes that we can just convert to offices if we didn't have one, but we can be creative. If you have a patio, you can set up your office on the patio. As you can see in this picture below, there's actually, this person created an office or a study space in a closet. and you can see it's very organized. So your study space, you don't have to have necessarily an office to do all this wonderful studying that you need to do. The reality is that you can make a great study space anywhere that you can get yourself organized, and it's a place that that isn't a truly comfortable place. A lot of times people want to study while you're in bed, but what happens when you study when you're in bed? Well, I believe that most of our beds are pretty comfortable, and after a while, we start getting very tired as we lay into our beds, even while we're studying and we're reading. So, yeah, it's not always a good. Thanks, Jennifer. Yes, there will be a little snooze happening if you tend to just study in bed. So, if you have to study in your bedroom, that's okay. Maybe you can set up like a study space in that room, but that's not on your bed, or you're sitting on the floor, or you have carved out a corner. I'm telling you, there are some very creative places. Some of us have attics that no one goes into. Create a study space there. Okay. Number 5, eliminate distractions. Turn your phone off on silent, okay? And remember that even when you turn your phone on silent, you can, like, you have these like favorite lists that we can, that will still allow us to have specific or certain people be able to send us messages or communicate with us, right? Studies when no one else is home, if you're able to do so. I know right now that's not always the easiest thing to do, but we have friends, we have families, and we may need to rely on them. If you have kids at home and you are still trying to study, maybe you can ask someone if they can maybe watch your kids for an hour and give you some study time during the week to help you have less distractions. There are lots of different apps out there that can help you. One of them is called Freedom. It's a pretty good app. And what it does is it blocks the internet. So you can set up times where it will just block the entire internet. So anything that's going to come through, like social media, anything from the internet, it will block it. There's another app I like called Focus Me, where it like blocks specific sites, and it also sets timers and launch limits. So that means that, like, for example, if you have a tendency to like always check your social media, you can send a launch limit on your cell phone or on your other devices that will prohibit you from accessing those different sites after a certain amount of times per day. So, for example, if you say, I'm only going to allow myself to check social media 4 times a day. Once you hit that limit of 4, then it won't allow you to access it anymore. Okay, so we can kind of stop ourselves. Focus Me also will allow you to set timers so that you can you'll be able to like say, okay, you're going to study from like 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and it will set a timer like at each 30-minute mark to remind you to get up and stretch or drink some water, use the restroom, whatever the case may be. Leech Block is another great web app that will allow you to block certain websites during a certain period of time. So if you have little ones at home and they're supposed to be online, and our little ones, they are very tech savvy. A lot of them, you can see that you can ask students to, you can ask your little students to stay on task, but sometimes they won't. And even we have to ask our big students to stay on task, and sometimes we don't. But if you use Leech Block, you can block different websites during the day so that you have no choice but to stay on your computer and focus on what you're supposed to be focused on. You can't access MSNBC. You can't go to CNN. You can't go to Facebook. You can't go to TikTok. You can block all of that for certain periods of time throughout the day, and that will help you stay focused. And then finally, if apps aren't your thing, don't worry. We all pretty much have cell phones. You can use your cell phone to set timers. So give yourself, if you know that you're supposed to study at a certain time, set your schedule to do so, set an alarm for that, and then even give yourself a timer that will tell you like when to stop and take breaks, just like these apps can do for you. So there are lots of ways we can eliminate distractions. We just have to be creative and use what is available. Number 6, beware of sneaky deadlines. When you're in a face-to-face class, it is much easier to keep up. It's much easier to keep up with what's going on in class because your professor is constantly reminding you. But the problem is that when we are not in class, we have to be aware of all of our deadlines, and a lot of times without our professor's reminders. the first thing I will tell you is to read the syllabus for each course. I know the syllabi have like all these pages that that you don't necessarily think you need, but scan them for sure. Read them. Reading them would be best. Scanning them is the next best. But if you don't do anything else, make sure you find the course calendar for each one of your courses, and you find out when the due dates are for each of your major assignments. Identify all of your due dates on your syllabi. So to get all of your syllabi together and look and circle all the due dates for all of your classes on each one of your syllabi, okay? Then you're going to place those due dates on your calendar. You can use a calendar, like you can use a phone, you can use a paper, you can use Canvas, and you can create due dates. If your professor hasn't placed them on the calendar, you place them on the calendar yourself. All you have to do is click, and then you can go to the, you can create a task, or you can, that needs to be due, and you can determine what is showing up on your calendar. Also, place begin by dates on your calendar. So for example, if you have a test that is on October 4th, then maybe you want to start studying on by September 25th. So you put the due date for your test on September 4th, and you should put a due date on September 25th to begin studying for that test, okay? Also, once you've done all of that, you're going to repeat that process for each one of your classes. So go through your syllabus for anatomy, get all your due dates, put them on the calendar, go count some days back and put your begin by dates, begin to study for test 3, begin working on this essay, whatever the case may be, then repeat that process for the next class, okay? Now, the trick is to use the same calendar. Make sure that you don't have a calendar for anatomy, a calendar for English, and a calendar for algebra. That's not going to work, right? Put everything on one calendar. That way you can see what you need to do in a quick glance. And finally, use the Canvas feed tool. If you aren't using the Canvas feed tool, it's pretty easy. All you really just need to do is, I believe you're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint. But if you use the Canvas feed tool, you can just go to your calendar on Canvas, and I'll show you. I think I can show you. So we can just go into our calendar on Canvas. And can someone respond in the chat if you can still see my screen, if you can see that I'm in Canvas? Can someone respond? No, you cannot? Okay, it's black right now. Okie dokie. How about now? Can we see my screen? Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Knock. Okay, so as you can see, I have my calendar. This is only set for one class, but if I want to add all of my classes, I want to highlight the courses, right? So I'm going to make these, I'm going to check the little boxes next to all of my classes. And so all of my different class assignments will end up on this one page, okay? If not, so do that. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that if we want to have this calendar feed directly into our cell phones, we just come over here on the right where you see calendar feed. You'll click this and it'll give you a link. You copy that link and then you go to one of your calendars. So I'm just going to go to my Google Calendar. Oh, I think I have it here. I'm just going to go to my Google Calendar. I'm going to come over here and click on calendar. And then I'll see all my calendars here. I have several calendars kind of feeding. Can everybody still see? You see I moved to my Google Calendar? I think we're still good. Okay, good. And so when I get here, I can just click where it says add other calendars from the URL, put in my URL from Canvas, and then add it to the calendar, okay? And once I do that, I'm not going to do this because I don't want Canvas on my calendar, but if I click, I just use that same URL from Canvas, put it on the calendar, and then now wherever my calendar is, if it's on your cell phone, then you'll now be able to see all of your Canvas assignments on your cell phone as well. Okay, So I'm going to go back to our presentation. Okay, I think we should, someone give me just put a Y in the chat if you can see that we're back to our presentation. Y, thanks. Okay, great. All right, so the next tip I have is to check your email regularly, right? We want to check our email at least every other day, okay? I'm not saying you have to check it every single day, but check it at least every other day. Set up a reminder on your calendar to check your email if you have a tendency to forget. So if you set a repeating reminder to check your email Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, okay? And that way you won't just totally forget, because I know a lot of you have a bunch of different emails. You may have a work email, you have your personal email, then you have another email, and then here's emails from your professor. So give yourself some reminders to check your emails. Another thing you can do is you to download your learning management system app. So as we know, Canvas has an app. So download the Canvas app, and then a lot of this information is going to feed directly to your cell phone. And it's free. It's in the Google Store, in the Google Play Store, and also on the Apple Store. Okay. And then finally, set your notifications in Canvas to push messages in Canvas, from Canvas to your phone. Okay, so you have the settings like where you have your picture in Canvas. You can, and I'll just take you there. I like to demonstrate instead of just showing. Okay, so in Canvas, I can go to my account. I can go to notifications, and I can determine which notifications I need to set. Like if I want reminders about the due dates, I can set it for every single day, or I can do a weekly summary, I can get a daily summary, or notify me right away. So you might want to do click this, and then it turns it green, and then you're good to go. So you'll go down all these list of options, and that way you'll get automatic updates of when due dates are coming up. Another thing you can do is you can go into each specific class, because maybe you don't want the due dates from all of your classes, but maybe you want due dates for specific classes. So you can click on your class. You can click over here on the right, view course notifications. Yours looks a little different in student view, but you still have this option, view course notifications. And you can do the same thing. You can turn options on and off as far as notifications are concerned. Okay, if you push, everything's going to come to your email immediately. So that's another way we can stay up to date. Okay, give me a Y if you can see my that I'm back on the PowerPoint. A Y. Quinn gave me a U. That's okay. Thanks, Quinn. I appreciate it. Okay, so set your notifications in Canvas, and that way you'll be able to keep up with any information that's coming out from your professors. Okay. Now, thanks, Laura. So number 8, get organized. Okay, use a USB drive. I'm old school. I still like USB drives. I know that their hard drives are better, and cloud services can be even better. But find some way or some place to store your information, and make sure that place is organized. So get a Dropbox, use Microsoft, use iCloud, wherever the case may be. Find a place where you're going to store all of the assignments, everything you write, everything you use for your classes. Create a folder for each class. Make sure that you are using a folder for each class, so that you aren't like saving things on your desktop and then saving things to your documents and saving it. Then when it's time for you to find it, you can't find anything, right? So get organized, create a folder for each class, and make sure you're saving whatever you need to save into that folder. The last tip I have about getting organized is to type and save everything before you post it. I have an MS Word, or you can type and save it in PowerPoint, wherever you need to save it. But like a lot of times you have discussion posts that you have to submit, right? And some of you just start typing on your discussion posts. Have you ever lost a discussion? Like something happens, and then your screen goes, and then all of your work is gone, right? So we don't want to do that. Use a Word document, respond to all of your discussions on your Word document, and then copy and paste it to wherever you need to post it. Also, so if it's not a document or a file that you're submitting, make sure that you still save whatever you're working on somewhere so that you can retrieve it later, or if for some reason you lose power, you'll still have information. I think you'll also find that a lot of the discussions that your professors are asking you to do are leading you to other assignments, like they're helping you generate ideas for an essay you may have to do later on. So whatever you type, just make sure that you are saving it somewhere. Okay. Number 9, I will say, to avoid procrastination and overscheduling. Schedule time to begin and complete assignments. We've already talked about that. When are you going to decide when you're going to start an assignment? We mentioned big projects, right? Schedule time to begin essays, or maybe just to do the research for an essay. Then maybe put another date to do the first draft for the essay. Give yourself another date to do tutoring on that essay. But you also may want to schedule time to begin assignments, because some of our assignments, like if you have a discussion, right? Sometimes we have discussions, you have to post and then you have to respond to 2 other classmates. Well, sometimes there aren't 2 classmates available. I'm sure you figured that out. But if a lot of times students will post and then they will forget to go back and add on to the other classmates, right? Make sure that you are scheduling time to begin and complete your assignments. If your assignments are due Sunday night, by Saturday afternoon, you may want to give yourself a note to say, hey, what time you may want to say, okay, it is 12 o'clock. Give yourself a note or a reminder to say, hey, at 12 o'clock, I need to make sure that I have at least this amount done. And then that leaves me with just 1 or 2 assignments to complete tomorrow. Okay. Now, technically, we should give ourselves at least 3 to 6 hours per week per course. Okay. Technically, you're supposed to study 2 hours for every 1 hour you're in class. So if you're taking 3 credit hour courses, you really need about 6 hours per class to do work. I think that you'll find that most of your classes won't require 6 hours. So I would say give yourself a minimum of 3, but you should really be expecting at least 6 hours per week per course of work you need to do. Okay. So schedule that into your weekly schedule. Okay. And also make sure that you discuss your school responsibilities with your work and your loved ones. A lot of people will be more understanding if they know that you have goals that you're trying to attain. Sometimes our friends, they are pressuring us to do things, and we're just not able to do everything we were once able to do because we are busy. We have, as you can see, we need to have 6 hours per class to study, plus the time we have to spend in class and so forth. So discuss your school responsibilities with your work and your loved ones. Tell your job that you're not going to be able to close on Tuesdays because on Wednesday morning you have class at 8 o'clock. And then try to give everyone a chance to work with you. And my last strategy is to get help when you need it. Don't wait until you receive that bad grade. If you're confused, then ask your professor for help, okay? Ask for extensions if you need them. Don't wait until the assignment's due and then email your professor and say, I couldn't get it done, right? That's not really helpful. If it's Wednesday and you can see that you have things back to back, maybe you have tests on Thursday and Friday and Saturday morning you have to work. If your assignments were due Saturday, maybe ask your professor on Wednesday for an extension on an assignment. If you need help from your professors, of course, you need to go to their virtual office hours. They all have them. Check in with your professors and see when you can get online with them. You can also do online tutoring. Remember that we have Upswing, which gives you an option to send a paper or send a question and then they send it back to you. Or you can do live tutoring, just like we're online right now. There are tutors available to work with you, okay? You can call that number and you can schedule some time to do tutoring, or you can just go to your My Eagle page, and as you can see, there's a Find a Tutor square. Click on that and you can actually access both Upswing and video tutoring, okay? So don't wait until it is too late. And then finally, I just have a quick tip, is to identify a youth strategy, right? My youth strategy is this. If I have a lot of work to do, I leave it really warm in my house because the colder it is, the sleepier I get. So if I have a lot of work to do, I don't turn on the air conditioning. I make sure that it is pretty toasty in my home until I get all of my work done, because that will keep me alert. Some of you may need to exercise in the morning so that you can get started with your work. Okay. Some of us may need to do some fasting, right? Maybe we won't eat until we complete our morning classes, then we'll eat lunch, or we'll give ourselves an hour after each hour. Maybe we'll eat a healthy snack. We'll eat a healthy snack each hour to kind of keep us moving and going, okay? So identify a strategy that works for you. These are personal. Everyone is different. And then finally, be kind to yourself. This online learning environment was thrust on most of you, and you weren't necessarily prepared to become immediate online learners. We're not all going to be perfect. Your professors are not all going to be perfect, but we can continue to work together. And in doing so, we will ensure that you have a wonderful learning experience. Give yourself credit for how far you've come, and also if you are needing help, if you can't do certain things, remember there are always people here to help you. I believe that you will receive a video recording of this presentation. But if you have any other questions that you may want to ask me, feel free to email me at the email address below. And that concludes my presentation. I believe now we are going to shift into the question period.
Yes, thank you. If anyone has a question, you can type something in the chat that you have a question you want to ask with your microphone, or you can use the raise hand function and I will unmute you then, whichever you prefer. We did have a question about effective reading of online texts versus paper books. Do you
Yes.
have any tips related to that?
Yes. One is that you treat your online textbook like it is your a paper textbook. Um, Meaning that you are going to take notes on the that you're going to take notes on on your actual text, that you are going to do some note taking as you go. One other thing is that while we are using these online e-readers or e-texts, it's strenuous on our eyes. Most of us are not accustomed to sitting there and like staring and reading for so long at a time. Do yourself a favor by adjusting your screens, okay? So you can go to like most textbooks have a way to adjust the font size. Make the font size larger, okay? So that you're not straining your eyes, and that ultimately will make you tired faster. So enlarge the text. If you don't have that option within the e-text, then you can go to like your browser, and you can enlarge the page so that you can see it. And then also give yourself breaks, a lot more breaks than you would have had if you were reading a paper text. So maybe let yourself read for 20 minutes, take some 5-minute notes to refresh your memory, step away, and then come back, and then read for another 20 minutes and go through that same process. Are there any other questions? What's going to happen if you finish your course early? Well, I think that just depends on your professors. Some of your professors have left your entire courses open and you can work at your own pace. And if you finish early, then that's fine. There's no penalty for finishing early, I don't think. If your professors leave it open, I think you can be sure that you're allowed to work ahead. However, keep in mind that if you do finish early, some items probably aren't visible. Like you may have finished all the assignments, but there are tests. So make sure that you are paying attention to those due dates, even if you finish early, to make sure that nothing pops up while you think that you have completed the course. Are there any other questions? I think that was Mazel, who asked a question about the textbook. Does that answer your question? Okay, I have a new question. Will I be allowed to use my personal email account in college, or do I need to get a new one? So HCC prefers that you use your HCC email account. However, you can set your preferences in your student system to send HTC information to a specific email of your choice. If you want, I'll show you. So, for example, I'm gonna go to, if you go to my Eagle, you can go to the student sign in. You'll sign in. Okay, and then once you are in, sorry, my computer's a little slow. Once you are in, you can, oh, student homepage, hold on. Oh, sorry, profile. When you go to your profile, you will see, and it may be, you know, when we have this, we switch to this new one. So if you go to your personal details, if I go here, it's going to show mine. So if I go to your personal details, and you can go to contact details in profile, and you can switch which email preference you have. Okay. And also, let me just check one other place. No, that's not it. So go to your profiles. Yeah. Okay. So if you go to your profiles, or if you go to just your student center that looks like this, you can come here to where you see other. You'll see your contact information at the bottom. You can click other here. And you can add an email address and make it your preferred one. So add the email address, make it preferred, and click on save. Okay. Are there any other questions we might have? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions.
There is one other question that came in privately to me, and it was, what do you recommend for an online anytime course student who is also working part-time?
Well, I think that we go back to some of those tips about creating yourself a schedule. Make sure that even though your class is an online anytime class, make your class on time on the schedule. Create a time around your work schedule. So if you can get your work schedule set for specific hours, then that way you can get your school schedule set for specific hours. So work with your employer to get yourself a standard schedule, and then give yourself scheduled times to work on your assignments that are outside of those hours. Does that answer your question?
As somebody who did do online education while also working and raising kids, my primary advice is everything you said and more, but more. It's even more important that you be this organized and keep track of everything, keep track of your calendars, check your email every day, check your course every day. Those would be my top tips as someone who did this.
I totally agree. I've worked full time and went to school, and I want you to know that most of your professors, we all know the struggles that you have in doing so, and we know how difficult it is. So help us, let us help you. Reach out to us if you need help, if you're feeling overwhelmed, or you just need some assistance on how better to manage your courses. That's how what virtual office hours are all about. I'm sorry. So go to your virtual office hours with your professors, speak with them, tell them maybe you're spending too much. You think like, oh, I'm spending about 5 hours a week working on these types of assignments. And they'll say, oh no, it shouldn't take you that long. And they'll give you some tips on how to condense that time. So take the opportunities that are available to speak to your professors and get organized, create a schedule, and stick to that schedule.
Yes. Yeah, and I did want to emphasize, because so many of us have been through this, a lot of us, we want to keep the students here from making many of the same mistakes we made. We learned a lot of this stuff the hard way.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. That is so very true.
Yes. And so I did have another question, which is related to the meeting itself, whether it's going to be set somewhere to look back on future reference. And we are recording it. So we're going to let you all know how that's available once we're done with that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't. Again, if you have my email address, and if anyone has any specific questions, I'll type it in the chat. again for you. And if you have any specific questions that you need answered that you think of later, you can feel free to reach out to me and I'll do my best to answer your question. So
Great. And sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to start doing some starting to wrap up stuff, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, that's all. I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing me to present to you today. Thank you so much for participating in my polls and for answering all of my questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting. And I wanted to remind everyone of next week's session, which is Laura Williamson is talking about collaborating in these online times. And then Yaneli has some things to say about a raffle.
Hi, yes, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Ms. Coladoy. I'd also like to thank everyone for attending this workshop. We will be having similar events like this every Tuesday at noon. And I did also want to inform you all to please check your email by this Friday afternoon to see if you won a prize gift card. We will be rewarding 2 attendees at random, so make sure you all check for that. And it should be sent to your email that you use to log in for here. So I check your HCC email. And also, before you log out, feel free to RSVP our future events. I'll insert the link in the chat box so you guys can click that. And if you put the second button to the right, it'll say RSVP. You'll get reminded a day before the event. Let's see, we'll put all attendees. Here we go. Alrighty, and did anyone else have any questions for me? No, okay. And I just put that link in the chat box so you guys can click that and it'll show you all the upcoming life hacking event series. If you click the one that's that you have some interest in, you can click RSVP and you'll get the reminder for that. Yes, Cynthia, and don't forget to register to vote, everyone. Alrighty, Jennifer, did you have anything you wanted to add, or Kimberly?
No, that'll be all. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome, thank you so much. Well, I wish everyone a beautiful rest of the day, and I hope to see you all next week.
Brian had a question. He says, is this going to be in a place for future reference? Yes. So how are they going to get the recording?
Jennifer, do you know where they can access the recorded video of this?
I don't know immediately offhand. To be honest, this is my first time doing being a host in WebEx events. So it's going to be either on Presence or if we can't manage to get it on Presence, we'll put it on the library guide that's related to this, which is, I'll just type that in the chat. It's library.hccs.edu/lifehacking101. So that's one place where you'll be able to find things related to this.
Oh, okay. And I actually just found the link for our life hacking series. This is going to be our landing page. And so if you click that landing page, Brian, you'll see today's event. And I think it does need some time for it to for the system to register the recorded video, but you should be able to access it. 2 days. Yes. So you should be able to access that, Brian, on that second link that I sent over. Okay.
Oh,
thank you.
Alex beat me to the life hacking web link.
You're welcome, Brian. Thank you for your question. Laura, can you post the recordings on Presence? Yes. So so the recordings will post on the life hacking landing page, which should be at the link that Alexandra and Jennifer pasted. Let's see. I think that's it. Any last questions, guys? Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for joining. I just added my email I'm Nellie Aziz with Student Life at Northwest College, and I'm helping Dominique as well as the library with our life hacking workshops. So if you guys have any questions, or if you want, if you need any information about previous life hacking workshops, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm happy to respond to you and provide any information that you guys might have looking forward.
All right,
All
I'm
right,
going to
you
go
all
ahead and
have a
stop the
blessed day.
recording now. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a work in progress.
Right, exactly.